This is day 6, cool down called If This, Then That. So when we solve equations, I keep forgetting, I got this nice microphone. I should plug that in, see if this works. Testing. Does that sound better? I hope so. When solving an equation, sometimes we end up with a false equation instead of a solution. Let's look at 2 examples. So, original equation, I don't know why that n got messed up. Divide each side by 4, and if you remember from the previous lesson, that is an acceptable move. We're allowed to divide both sides of an equation by the same amount, and it stays balanced. And then we subtracted x from both sides, and we get 1 equals 0. So that doesn't work. The one on the right over here, original equation. We're doing the distributive property, and then we're subtracting 4x from both sides, and we get 4 equals 0. These are all acceptable moves. We can add or subtract from both sides. We can multiply or divide on both sides. We can simplify using the distributive property on one side or the other, or both. And yet we end up with a false statement. The reason for this is because we started off with a false equation. And we can clearly see that right here. This x plus 1 equals x. There is not a single number in existence that if you add 1 to it, it stays the same as the original number. That just doesn't happen. So we started off with a false statement. The original equation was flawed. Now, looking at this one, each step in the process seems like it would be acceptable. And yet, again, we end up with a false statement. 8 is not equal to 1. So what's the problem here? Well, when we take a look at 8x equals x, there is a number that's a possible solution to that. And that number is 0. If we put in 0 for x, 8 times 0 is 0, which is equal to 0. What they're doing here is dividing by 0, which you cannot do. If you try to divide by 0 on your calculator, what your calculator is going to tell you is either error or undefined or something like that. And that's your calculator's way of saying that's a dumb question. You can't divide by 0. If I have 6 cookies and 0 friends, and I want to give each of my 0 friends a cookie, how many cookies does each friend get? Well, can you divide 6 into groups of nothing? No, that doesn't work. You cannot divide by 0. So, while we can add or subtract or multiply or divide both sides of an equation by the same thing, we cannot divide both sides of an equation by a variable. The reason for that is because we might be dividing by 0. We don't know what x is, and it could possibly be 0. Now, you may have seen TikToks or YouTube shorts or Instagram reels or whatever it is you crazy teenagers are watching these days, where people are like, I proved that 8 equals 1, and they're wrong. Usually what they're doing is they are hiding dividing by 0 using variables somehow. I've seen a number of these videos, and every single time they're hiding dividing by 0 using variables. Anyway, the point is, you cannot divide by a variable. You just can't. You might miss a solution, namely x equals 0. Now, taking a look at the cooldown, it should be self-explanatory at this point how to answer these questions. I hope so. If you have questions, let me know. And for this video, I'm gonna sign off with my best YouTube sign off. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and smash that notification button for updates. That feels icky. Anyway, if you have questions, let me know.